Hello, my name is Michelle Pope, and I will be reviewing a case study on REI's opt-outside campaign. It's really important before we go into the opt-outside campaign overview and review to really understand REI's company background, because a lot of this campaign is rooted in its history and also brand identity. Recreational Equipment Inc., also known as REI, is a $2.5 billion retail company that sells outdoors equipment and apparel. One of the unique things about REI is that the company maintains a cooperative corporate structure, which is a type of structure that is founded on the principle of participatory governance, which means that the company is governed by those who use its services. So in REI's instance, its members. REI is active in the community and gives nearly 70% of its profits to the outdoor community and also invests over $9 million in its nonprofit partners. Additionally, REI is focused on advancing sustainability in day-to-day operations. Its focus areas include developing green buildings, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, and reducing energy consumption. The one thing that I thought was interesting that I saw on REI's website was that it has a company aspiration to have zero waste to the landfill by 2020. REI's business model and performance today harkens back to its roots and founders, Lloyd and Mary Anderson, shown in this image, in Seattle, Washington in 1938. The Andersons were avid mountain climbers and imported ice axes from Austria for themselves. They decided to set up a co-op to help other outdoor enthusiasts acquire good quality climbing gear at a reasonable price by only charging $1 for the co-op membership. There's also no doubt that REI's company history is rooted in the outdoors and mountain climbing. The first full-time employee and CEO in the 1960s was Jim Whittaker. He was the first American to summit Everest. So as REI's board of directors changed over the years and also consumer preferences evolved, REI knew that they had to evolve as well. So the first step they did to remain relevant for their shoppers is broaden its offering of outdoor sports to appease a broader audience by focusing on activities like bicycling, kayaking, and family camping. Almost all great business ideas are rooted in strong consumer insights, and this one for REI is no different. REI began to do consumer research by looking into closets to learn what people used and what they didn't use. As REI's VP of Product Design said, it became obvious that no matter who you were or what your outdoor activity were, there were certain things that every single person had: a puffy jacket, a fleece, and a quarter zip. But nobody had created a line of these outdoor essentials. Logically so, REI capitalized on this market gap by debuting a clothing line called REI Co-op. The product line was rooted in one of REI's product design philosophies, cooperatively designed. REI learned from its members and employees how to develop gear that really worked. While the gear was inspired by members, it was created for anyone who needed the item. In conjunction with this clothing line launch, REI subtly changed its logo by adding in Co-op. This was a subtle but strong rebranding as it broadened the new product line, and it also highlighted REI's unique corporate structure. So now that you know a little bit about who REI is and where they've come from, let's get into the opt-outside campaign. So these rebranding efforts culminated in one of what I think is the boldest marketing campaign that we've seen in years. So in 2015, REI announced that it would be closing its doors on Black Friday. Now let's review some quick Black Friday facts, because this will help support why I think this campaign is one of the most boldest ones I've seen in years. The first is that 101 million people shop in-store on Black Friday. The average shopper spends over $900. There are about 2,800 orders per minute sold online. And lastly, about 70% of Americans said they plan to shop over Thanksgiving weekend. So why would any retailer want to miss out on this great opportunity to make money? It's because there are brands like REI who are purpose-driven brands. A purpose-driven brand is a brand that consciously places the why in front of everything it does and in the center of how it communicates and how it actually behaves in its business conduct. So in a message from Jerry Stripesky, REI's CEO, and Cheryl Scott, the chair of REI's board of directors, they wrote, "The outdoors has defined the culture and identity of America, perhaps more than any other nation. At REI, we believe that choosing life outdoors brings out the very best in us, individually and collectively, regardless of age, gender, race, or background. Everything we do is built from a belief that an outdoor life is a life well lived." But the future of life outdoors is not assured. Without much fanfare or protest, at the turn of the century, we passed a troubling cultural milestone. Humans became an indoor species. We describe that trend, which has happened over centuries, as the long march indoors. For people who love being outdoors, that fact hurts. So you know a brand is a purpose-driven brand when they take action. Here's what REI did when they wanted to change the fact that Americans spend more than 90% of our daily lives indoors.
I'm Jerry Stripesky, the CEO of REI. This Black Friday, we're closing all 143 of our stores. We're paying our employees to get outside, because we believe a life lived outside is a life well lived. We'd rather be in the mountains than in the aisles. Join us on November 27th at Opting Outside. Thanks. Yeah. Hi. What are you doing here? I work here. I'm Jerry Stripesky.
According to an Adweek article, the author of the article described the inception of Opt Outside as starting with a suggestion from the head of merchandising during a holiday session. The head of merchandising said, "We could never do it, but what if we close on Black Friday?" REI's employees almost immediately agreed to go all in once they established this idea as a real possibility. Then REI briefed their advertising agency, VB&P. The creative director of VB&P said that during the creative process, they realized that it stopped being about closing the stores and became about getting people to go outside. So REI's ultimate goals for the Opt Outside campaign were twofold: to reinforce its brand identity while also encouraging more people to shop at its stores in the long term. The Opt Outside hashtag later drove the creation of a meme generator, which encouraged users to share images and videos related to their own outdoors experiences. VB&P also created a campaign kit consisting of freeze-dried Thanksgiving leftovers, which its PR partner chose to give out to influencers in the hiking and biking community. So this is really important because REI leveraged a different network than its own network to get the word out and create buzz. And then lastly, it also partnered with a geomapping service to design a mobile site that helped less experienced outdoor enthusiasts find appropriate locations in the area to enjoy the natural world. So I think this kind of covers off on 3 different target markets. The meme generator is really towards people who are already outdoor avid enthusiasts. The middle one is really engaging the key influencers in the biking and hiking communities. And then the third is really to help the novice outdoor users to get those people to go outside as well. So REI had these as well as different activations on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So REI rolled out its campaign once all of the elements were developed, but one of the things that they struggled with was scheduling. So initially, the plan was to launch really close to Black Friday, but they ended up scheduling in October to get ahead of the inevitable Black Friday media coverage to ensure that they could get their message out first and encourage the most amount of people possible. So the campaign launched in October with an internal rollout to the REI staff and also a print ad in the New York Times. Now let's get into the campaign review. I'll be reviewing this campaign with 3 key questions. Was the campaign successful? What worked well? And then how could the campaign be improved? To review campaign results, it's really important to remember the campaign goal, which was to reinforce that brand identity and then also to encourage more people to shop at its store in the long term. In our textbook, Social Media Marketing, one of the things that they mention of how to review campaign results is by looking at 3 key metrics: activity, interaction, and return. Activity metrics measure the actions the organization takes relative to social media. So this data shows that the majority of Facebook posts were pictures that were being tagged with the Opt Outside campaign. So while they also received posts and links and reshares, a big number of users and interactions was through posts. So I think this kind of goes to show that the type of campaign where you're asking people to go outside, you can't really blog while you're outside, but a photo is a really great way to have user-generated content while you're outside. The second are interaction metrics. So interaction metrics focus on how the target market engages with the social platform and activities. So I think there are 3 key interaction metrics to highlight. The first is that 1.4 million people posted the Opt Outside hashtag, while REI only saw 1 million members sign up for its co-op in 2015. So I think that shows a lot of success of you're reaching more than just your membership audience. Another great interaction metric is that 170 organizations also chose to opt outside, and one of the most notable partnerships was Subaru, who had a campaign of opt outside with your dog. And lastly, one of the things that REI did was when on Black Friday, if a consumer would go to rei.com, there would be a blackout site, so you couldn't shop online, and you'd be redirected to a microsite, and so people could choose on the microsite to say that they would want to opt outside, and so about over 700,000 people did that. Another interesting interaction metric is that the amount of global discussion being had. So REI is an American company, and Black Friday is mostly celebrated in the US, but this hashtag, as you can see, was discussed in multiple countries. Because the campaign was focused on encouraging consumers to get outdoors, I think this helps hypothesize why we see hashtag spikes like this chart right here. So we saw spikes in the morning and in the afternoon. So I think this is hopefully indicating that people chose to spend most of their day outdoors. So kind of a pre and post interaction online. We also saw really positive consumer responses. So people posting images of where they were, great photography, but also using Twitter to really support Black Friday's choice to close and really stay true to who they are as a brand. So the third and final metric is a return metric. Return metrics focus on the outcomes, probably in this case more financial, that directly or indirectly support the success of the brand. So one of the things that the Adweek article that I previously mentioned, they had wrote that the campaign led to a really significant rise in membership. So for REI, this is much more important for them than a single sales bump, because their business model, the cooperative model, is where customers effectively double as both employees and owners of the company. So when you have more members, that's way more important to them than a sales spike. And then secondly, one of the things that was mentioned was that so REI paid its 12,000 employees to go outside, which so they had said that that was really successful to them, because even if they didn't reach a single person, they still had their employees, those 12,000 people who they could reach. And then lastly, in 2015, when they reported their financial performance, they saw almost a 10% increase in revenue, 7% increase in comparable store sales, and then 23% increase in digital sales. So by no means did the company see an annual decrease in their sales from running this campaign. So now let's go to what worked well. I think one of the things that worked well for REI was that this one-time campaign that was supposed to be for Black Friday, it turned into everyday marketing. So I took this screenshot shortly after this year's Black Friday, and as you can see that they're really encouraging consumers to opt outside every day and not just on Black Friday. It's also being made a tradition. So the campaign was so successful that they ran it again in 2016 and in 2017. One of the things I read in the Fast Company article that's sourced on the slide is that the CEO of REI said, how could we, after such a successful 2015, how could we ever open our stores again? And in 2017, they featured an experiential search engine. So this allowed all of the user-generated content from the previous years to be found and searched. And they also released 20 films that featured consumer UGC. And while this is not directly related to business performance or the campaign, I think from an advertising and marketing perspective, they were really recognized at the Cannes Lions International Festival, which is seen as one of the largest gathering of advertising professionals, designers, digital innovators, and marketers. So this is a really prestigious event, and the campaign won 2 big awards. So how could this campaign be improved? I think there's really 2 ways that REI can think about this campaign. So I took this screenshot the day after Black Friday and was a little disappointed to see that they were still featuring Cyber Week sales. And so I think for REI to consider really taking this campaign to the next level is how can you go completely dark? So not encouraging Cyber Week or Cyber Monday, but if you're really going to encourage people to go outside and not shop on Black Friday, how do you do that consistently throughout all of the holiday shopping frenzy? And then the second one is also encouraging consumers to opt offline. So the article source is one of the only articles that really had a lot of negative comments for REI. And I think specifically is, you're encouraging consumers to go outside, but then you're having them document their experiences with with a telephone and getting them, or a mobile phone, and getting them to go back online and go back inside. So I think as a brand who's running a social campaign, this is almost a double-edged sword, because you want people to go outside, but you want your consumers to know that you're encouraging them and you're the reason why they're doing this. So you want them to share their experiences online. So I think maybe a next step from them is to, how do you consider opting offline? That I think there's a big trend going on now of people really unplugging and disengaging. So this picture just shows somebody who's outdoors and enjoying it, but also taking pictures and documenting it. So to wrap up the case study, REI's Opt Outside campaign, I think, was overall successful, and I'm excited to see what they come up with next. Thank you for your time.